So undoubtedly it was a great accomplishment for America and for the world, of the free world. What is the response now to such as this?
There are a couple of things I believe that would be worth noting. One is Osama bin Laden is gone. As John Brennan said in his White House briefing this afternoon, we've cut off the head of the snake. Johnny boy, not quite sure we have completely severed the head of the snake, or if we have, there may be some other snakes there, like Zawahiri or others. There may be somebody waiting in the wings who can take over and keep things going. It is a blow to Al-Qaeda. Some people say this is the death of Al-Qaeda. I'm inclined to say, wait a minute, let's hold up a little bit. Look at Al-Qaeda as an operation. Al-Qaeda, the camp, the base, is a series of franchises of Islamist terrorists around the world, like Kentucky Fried Chicken. And just because the head man now has been buried at sea, and that's another one useful we might come back to if you'll remind me, is now down there with the fishes, doesn't mean that Al-Qaeda no longer exists. In fact, I think we can anticipate that they will exercise themselves mightily to exact some form of revenge or something that they can claim as a victory to offset the morale consequences of this American success. And the other thing is, Al-Qaeda will keep going on a decentralized basis. I would say again, Osama bin Laden was living high on the hog in a very sophisticated villa, not in a cave, but there were no communications links visible of an electronic kind, of any kind, extending out of his villa. It was not a command post in any sense or an operational headquarters. Occasional couriers would come and go with money or letters of exhortation and that kind of thing. But he wasn't really running terrorist operations around the world from there. So when he's gone, the operations will continue. They didn't really depend on him. He was a figurehead and important to them for propaganda purposes and morale purposes. But I think we have to be careful that we not exult too much with his unceremonious departure, because it may, in the long run, not make all that much difference. I have a feeling that there may be somebody like Zarqawi, the murderous guy whom McChrystal finally ran to earth in Iraq, who was one of the most ruthless, bloodthirstiest terrorists I think that ever lived. Maybe someone like him waiting in the wings who would take over and possibly even do more than Osama bin Laden. So my big feeling is let's not get too excited and start patting each other on the back and say the war against terrorism is now on the way to being won, and that decisively. I think we still are facing a hard and difficult slog. We do now face the problem of facing up to the fact that relations with Pakistan are already severely strained. This is bound to strain them somewhat further, because in reality, we did infringe, and that severely, upon Pakistani sovereignty as a nation state. We only let them know that we had been there, note past tense, after our troops had successfully cleared Pakistani airspace. Then we told them. We were lucky, incidentally, they'd scrambled some jets. We were lucky those jets didn't intercept the helicopters and shoot them But we now have got to go back and see if we can patch things back together. I would say again, within the Pakistani security and intelligence establishment, there are those who are pro-American, will assist us any way that they can. I believe that their assistance of those particular people was critical to the success of this operation. There also are individuals in the Pakistani national security and especially intelligence circles, arenas, people who are pro-Taliban, pro-Al-Qaeda, and they will use our infringement of Pakistani sovereignty to inflame the fires of tension and anger still higher. So we now have a severe diplomatic problem that we have to deal with. Exactly how we do deal with it, I'm not quite sure. To get into it right now would take another 30 minutes or an hour, which we don't have.
One thing that this means is kind of the end of an almost 10-year manhunt that has been a driving force of our military operations for quite some time. With this now behind us, accomplished, achieved, what is our goal, or what are our considerations going forward in the war on terror, or in this operation for our troops and for our country as a whole?
Our immediate concern has to be ensuring that we deal effectively with the backlash to this operation. The backlash will consist of possibly three things. One I've already noted, the manner in which anti-American Pakistani will use this to inflame tensions still further. Secondly, we have got to deal with the responses of our allies. Some of our allies may regard this as the heavy-handed arrogance of the Americans once again. And thirdly, and for the moment, importantly, we've got to be prepared to deal with the fact that the Al-Qaeda and associates will exert themselves mightily to extract some form of revenge now, that is in the immediate time frame. And we've got to be ready for that, so we have to be at a heightened alert. Those are short-term considerations that we have to bear in mind. On the long term, I think we have improved our approach to the war, but I do believe that we need clearer statements of our long-term goals, and we need to do a better job in what we call information operations. We used to call them psychological operations, to where we present better explanations of what it is we are trying to do and why, not only to our own people, as that becomes an information operation, but to our allies and those who are neutrals or not so friendly inclined toward us. We've got to do a better job of explaining who and what we are and what it is we're trying to do and why we are right. And we got to make sure we are right. So we need a clear-cut strategy that people can understand and subscribe to. The whole thing has been kind of murky up to now. And some of our actions, I think, have been ill-conceived, naively formulated, I think especially of the invasion of Iraq. The war against the Taliban in 2001, on the heels of the attacks on the World Center, was where the war was justified. It was a war that was necessary. We had been struck from that area. We needed to go to that area and find the people who attacked us and bring them to justice, which we endeavored to do. We were so rapidly successful with the Northern Alliance, that combined with our special forces as well as our air power, that we can, when we succeeded in a matter of weeks of driving the Taliban out of the country, we kind of sat back on our hands and said, well, that's that. And we let things go to hell in a handbasket in Afghanistan for a long time, while we diverted our attention to Iraq, looking for wars of massive destruction, which weren't there, and fighting that war quite the wrong way, and as a result have created for ourselves a very difficult situation. Many Americans feel that all they want us to do right now is get out of Afghanistan, get out of Iraq. As far as they're concerned, we have no reason to be there. It is a political issue. And one of the reasons that those wars are political issues is one was right, the other was wrong, but they've never really been explained in depth and detail to the American public in a consistent way. And we've simply got to do a better job of that. And we've got to do a better job of presenting ourselves to the world of Islam as well. That is a very, very key thing. There are those who say Islam is bad, our Christian religion is good, and it is pictured as a war of religions. That not only is wrong, it's very, very dangerous as far as I'm concerned. I view Al-Qaeda and the Islamists as extremists. They have killed many more Muslims than they have Caucasians or Christians, and we need to regard them as mad dogs and keep on after them. But we've got to do a better job formulating just what it is we want to do, and explaining it to the public and somehow regaining public support. But public support is ebbing so rapidly now that we are on the verge, I'm afraid, of kind of cutting and running as we did from Vietnam in 1975. In the world of the 21st century, where news from 10,000 miles away is served to you in a twinkling, where you have a steady diet of it all day long, especially in the evening. We need to ensure that American citizens, patriotic Americans, take time to know what's going on, know the issues, and take a stand. If the general public just sort of sits on its backsides, and or as they were advised by George W. Bush, leave the fighting to the soldiers and go shopping, go to the malls, we'll be in bad shape. We'll be in bad shape. We somehow have got to achieve greater unity of purpose. I'm not sure exactly how we do it, but I regard that as the single greatest concern that we have today, is a public which is informed, knows the issues, and is willing to take a stand on the issues and hold our elected representatives accountable. Sounds like high-flown rhetoric, but I mean exactly what I've just said. And if we fall down in that area, we are going to be in trouble. Not only in the war against Islamist terrorists, but in reducing our staggering national deficit, and a number of other areas.